All right, back in the Falcons film, we're going to focus on the defensive players because, as good as the offense played in Kyle Pitts and everything else, I just find it hard to be interested in that side of the ball given I'm expecting some coaching changes. But defensively, I think the young guys had a pretty good game. Right here, you're going to see Ruka Roro and Jalen Walker come up pretty well here. You're going to see Rook get that big initial pressure on Baker. Then Jalen Walker would have, he's able to beat the backfield protection and he would have had a sack on Baker, but Baker makes a really nice play. So let's talk coverage-wise here. Let's rewind this just a bit. So coverage-wise, right, whenever you kind of see pressed up like this for all your corners, it's a pretty good indicator that you're probably going to see some man coverage, right? And that's exactly what we see. If I had to guess, you're going to see Jesse Bates come up here, and he's going to kind of take away this window for the receivers coming up here and run this in. So he's going to sink back and take away this initial throwing window. But the running back is actually his man. If I had to guess, Diablo would be responsible for the tight end right here, who's going to come over here and block Jalen Walker. And Walker's going to get inside of him, but if the tight end type would have released, I imagine Diablo would have matched him. That would be, my guess on the coverage. But again, whenever you see just corners like this, obviously, obvious man coverage indicator, you're going to see, Watts playing the one deep, that little bit of hope over the top. And again, pressure-wise, Jalen Walker, he beats the tight end type there. That really Rook causes most of this. And again, Baker just makes a good play. So we're not going to fault him for making a good play. Baker's a good quarterback. He's going to get you sometimes. But I really want to focus on Rook here. You can see just the power and, the ability he's going to have to continue to develop is just more pass rush moves. I think you've seen guys like Dorless and even, James Pierce and Jalen Walker. They have a couple more moves. Rook right here, though, this is just all power, walking back into his face, get the hand up. Baker looks to scramble. Again, this is a phenomenal play by Baker. I mean, right here, he should be dead to water, but he knows exactly where his running back is. He gets it out really quick, and that's a fantastic play by the Bucs. But defensively, on the interior D-line, I thought Rook did a good job there. Then Jalen Walker, obviously, is able to beat the tight end and pass pro, which is what you want to see, right? You can't have your edges getting beat by tight ends and pass pro. So it's a good play. All right, next thing I want to highlight Brandon Dorless in the run game, just, showing pretty good gap control, able to disengage from the guard. Jesse Bates obviously comes screaming in here on the interior gap of the guard. And that kind of gives the guard a bit of trouble where he kind of comes off of Dorless. But either way, I think Dorless positioning-wise is right where you want him to be, kind of able to play both gaps. I would assume he'd been able to disengage here regardless of what the guard did. But I also like to see him not get pushed back at the snap, right? He's able to kind of penetrate this guard into the backfield, and that just makes it a little bit harder for the running back versus if the guard was able to, get that vertical displacement on him. So, there's the main highlight players. So again, Brandon Dorless right here, lined up over the guard, shaded outside. You'll see Caden Ellis taking this big inside step. Jesse Bates is going to come screaming inside. You have this initial engagement by Dorless. Again, he's not getting pushed back very much. What's going to happen is as the guard sees Bates, he's going to try to kind of disengage, and Dorless is going to do a good job swiping his hands off him and, getting him off. But again, let's look just right here. Before Jesse Bates even fills this gap. So Jesse Bates is obviously coming right here. Dorless is in position to play either side. This is just really good gap control by him. He's just in position to play at either side. So as he comes up here, it looks like the running back's going to go inside. He's positioning to try to shed that and get it to the running back. The guard is going to come off right here, and you're going to see Dorless just swipe those hands off him. You can see right there. That little hand swipe right there. That's what I like to see. Just get his hands off you, make the tackle in space. Don't miss an easy one. So, yeah, it's a nice play by him. Good gap control. We're going to look for these interior defensive linemen, him and Rook in particular, to just continue developing as run defenders and pass rushers because it would be phenomenal if we go into next year with, two good edges and two good young interior defensive tackles. So it's a good play. All right, I would be remiss if I didn't include some D. Alford highlights. Obviously, anybody who's been watching my videos for a while know that I have been a bit of a D. Alford defender. I think he tends to get, excess blame when things go poorly just because he is, in times past, I don't think right now, but in times past, he has been, let's say, the weakest member of a solid secondary, and that naturally means you get picked on, and that means you look worse than you are on film. But I think D. Alford has a lot going for him right here. I think he's made a nice kind of comeback tour for him this year. Right here, you're going to see him on the blitz, and the biggest thing to remember when offenses want to come in here and kind of have these bunches close to the line, what it really does is just makes it harder for the quarterback to know who's rushing, right? So, they can send this slot. They could send AJ and try to get Bates over here. Obviously, they have the A gap with Caden Ellis here. You don't really know what they're going to do. What we're going to actually see them do, though, is James Pierce is going to come out here, and they're going to send D. Alford through the gap between the guard and the tackle. He's obviously going to do a phenomenal job getting his hand up to bat this ball. Again, coverage-wise, you can see it right here. This is just man. And we're expecting our pressure to get there, because if our pressure doesn't get there, we're in a bad spot. Now, they're going to bail Jesse Bates out, and he's going to kind of, to me, it looks like he's kind of playing this poach, where if this third type would have came deep, he would have been right on top of him. Because that doesn't really happen. He ends up just kind of playing that deep part of the field. And overall, this ball, in my opinion, is definitely there. I just think since we get it tipped, they're not able to complete it. So, again, that's on D. Alford. And we'll watch it from his angle right here. So, again, they're doing all this motion. Again, you want to bring people close to the line of scrimmage. We have our slot lined up over their slot. And that just means he's in an easy position to rush the passer. And, obviously, I think Baker makes a good throw. It just gets tipped. So, good job, D. Alford, getting a hand up and getting the incompletion. All right, next one here, more man coverage with that one deep safety. And I think you're going to see, again, what pressure can do to help your secondary in the same way the secondary, coverage helps our pass rush. So, right here, again, we just get pressure on Baker, and he's not able to complete this ball. I think the throw's there. I think he's probably going to make it. But what we're going to see here is a little bit what I was talking about earlier. When you crowd the line of scrimmage, it just gets hard for the offensive linemen. You're just asking for these miscommunications and assignments, and that's exactly what happens here. So again, hey, Bucks want to come out here and they want to line up with this kind of tight formation. So again, tight bunch. Over here they got the tight end in here. So what does that mean? It means we're able to crowd the line of scrimmage with all these guys. So that means we could send our linebackers. Send Caden Ellis off the edge. We could just send our base four, and then we could, drop out, which is exactly what we actually end up doing. So to me, this is kind of just the ebbs and flows of it, right? So what's going to happen here is, let's go ahead and play it so we can see as it happens live. We can watch the guard and tackle get a little bit confused here. Again, creep up Alford right here. Creep up Alford, and you're going to see right here this initial look right here. Initial look. This tackle probably thinks he's hot because it looks like we're sending everybody. And if we're sending everybody, then that means the edge guys who you usually want to leave unblocked. But since we bail out of our linebacker blitz here, and again, we're sending 5, but they have enough people to block this. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers. Though really it's more of a chip there. So they have 5 on 5. So in theory, they should be able to block this up. But you're going to see, again, just the slight hesitation we get with the guard and tackle. Because, again, we creep up Alford. The tackle tries to come off a little bit late. No shot. This forces Baker Mayfield to step up, and we have that interior pressure. So look at it from the end zone angle here. We'll wait for them to kind of get up to the line of scrimmage, crowd it. So, again, I just think anytime you can confuse the offensive line. Also, this guy has the Guardian cap or whatever. It looks so goofy. Look at the sides. Whatever. Anyways, yeah, so anytime you can confuse the linemen. So, again, you see? Initial look, guard and tackle, don't know what's going on. They're both going to double team street here. It's going to leave 17 all by himself, and then you're going to see James Pierce and Onyemata come in with a nice little stunt here. And again, James Pierce just does a really good job being a forceful player. That's the thing I think that stands out the most to him. I wasn't sure quite how his speed to power would translate, but to me it's translated very well, and you've seen some other pass rush moves from him. But this is all James Pierce, right? This is all James Pierce making this happen. Let's watch the stunt one more time. So again, occupy these 2 players with street, and we're going to send James Pierce right at the center, and he's going to take his lunch money right here. So again, fully extend, push back, get up, hands out, tip the pass. Great play by James Pierce. And again, I just think, for the Bucs offense, obviously they have a good offense the past couple years, really a great offense. But when you crowd the line of scrimmage like that, it just makes things confusing for the offensive linemen. And obviously the Bucs scored points on us, so it's not like it was perfect on our end. But I just think anytime you can make communication harder, whether that's as an offense, making communication hard on the cornerbacks. That's, usually when you see coverage busts, it's because they decided to, swap releases at the line of scrimmage, and one corner didn't know that the safety was supposed to have the inside vertical or something, and you just get these big coverage busts. So same thing offensive line-wise, right? We can get these communication errors to the offensive line by just presenting them a lot that they have to sort through. And even if it doesn't work every time, the few times it does work like this, it'll be a big advantage for you. So again, I think the defense just continued their solid play, and that was a good rep by James Pierce in particular, because the center was in position to pick James Pierce up. James Pierce just threw him on his ass. So again, nice to see the power there from a young pass rusher. All right, we had a whole lot of good, but here's a bad one. Obviously the Bucs put up points on us. We're lucky enough to win, but the Bucs put up points on us. And I think, when I talk about James Pierce, this is the one area I think if you can get him to develop, I don't think he'll ever be a great run defender, but if you can get him to be solid or even good, I think you'll be in a position to have a really, really great edge rusher. Because again, the inability to play on 3 downs essentially means your pass rush doesn't matter, right? If they decide to pass on first down, you're not out there because we're worried about the run, then your impact is limited. So for me, right here, I don't think anybody, I don't have to be a film genius, right? We can just watch this. You'd like to see him attack with a lot more power. So as soon as he sees this guy, you'd love to see him come in here, ram him, make this gap smaller. It's one thing if the running back, if he engages right here and he's got this running back is able to squeeze between this gap without a ton of room, has to kind of wiggle. That's fine. That's you mostly doing your job as an edge rusher by forcing it inside, not giving up the edge. But we can't sit here and have absolutely no collision. Because again, right here, if we engage with more power, they're pulling their guard or their center or whatever. If we engage with more power right here, it's going to affect this next lead blocker, and it's just going to create a bunch of traffic. And when you create traffic, you force the running back to slow down. Right now, they get whatever they want, and that to me is on James Pierce for not engaging with the little physicality, the level of physicality you need to see him do from edge. Because he doesn't really protect the edge, right? Like he tries to cut underneath it. Which, hey man, if you want to do this, okay, but you better make the play. Like if you're gonna do this stuff, not play what I would call more structurally sound defense, right? You better make the play. If you make the play, nobody's gonna give a shit. Everybody's gonna be like, oh my god, look at the instincts, look at the explosiveness. But when you try to do stuff like this, opposed to just engaging your blocker, you try to undercut him, go around and make a tackle, and you miss, then you look like a fool on tape. And again, James Pierce having an awesome rookie year. I think he will develop as a run defender. Because physically, I don't think there's anything stopping him from being a good one. So yeah, it's just a rep. I'm not sitting here trying to trash the guy. We got to be honest with the film. As much as we want to sit here and obviously praise him for his pass rush, which we have done and will continue to do, he's got to get better as run defender. And if he can get better at the run defender, then we're going to have one of the best edge players in the NFL, assuming he continues to develop as a pass rusher. So we'll see what happens. All right, next one here, we're going to see the Falcons defense just do a really good job communicating across the board, able to navigate all these releases by the Buccaneers. And, the coverage holds up. That means our pass rush has more time to get there, and you're going to see James Pierce win off the edge. And just, have that motor, keep working. You're going to see the balance. Balance is, I think, really an underrated aspect of an edge rusher, and it's really kind of the key in finishing plays. And so far, when I watch James Pierce, he seems to have pretty good balance. So, again, coverage-wise, to me, they're probably playing like this is 100% matched, like lock. So man, everywhere he goes, right, wherever we're sending this guy, AJ Terrell's with him. I think over here they're playing, kind of cover 3 here with, probably a trips check, right? So you're going to see D. Alford have whoever goes to the flat, first, low and outside. Obviously your outside corner has the first, vertical outside, and then the safety here is going to match, the 3 if he takes an inside vertical, or probably if he releases inside and gets upfield, you're going to see the kind of pass it off, right? It's a match, carry, deliver, right? You match them outside, you carry them vertically, you deliver them inside to your health. So the reason I say that is you'll see right here, Caden Ellis, you're going to see he's going to look over here. He's trying to see if there's some sort of shallow route that he needs to pick up. He sees there's not, so then he's going to get over here to the running back. Right here, this is just locked, I believe. And then, again, you're just seeing, pretty good coverage here with everybody matching their responsibility. So again, just good coverage, and that gives us time as pass rushers to get home, right? So I don't think James Pierce does anything crazy here, right? This is just a good little speed rush. Arguably, the tackle does a pretty good job right here because Baker, if he was in, let's rewind this a little bit. So at the top of his drop, right, he's right there at the center of the Buccaneers logo. The tackle, is kind of protecting that area. Baker has to start trying to scramble, and that's what gives, James Pierce time to go get him. Also important to note, Brandon Dorless right here, controlling, the rush lanes, right? Let's not let Baker. Baker's going to try to get in here. All right, let's take away that window. Arguably he probably could have scrambled, but I do think Brandon Doyle's probably going to be able to disengage and get him. But either way, again, this is a sack that I think is driven by the secondary in the same way we helped our secondary out earlier with, getting some pressure on Baker and tipping some balls, right? So that's how a good defenses work, right? Your coverage might be busted, but hey, your pass rush got home. Oh, your coverage might be great. Your pass rush didn't get home initially, but your coverage was good for so long that we ended up getting a positive play out of it. So again, just a nice job from the coverage unit. Again, I really think they were kind of the unsung heroes because obviously it's easier to highlight when your D-line is getting a sack, right? It's not as easy to highlight on the television copy, how well your secondary is playing. So next one. Our next one, I really want to highlight James Pierce. Coverage on the back end obviously ends up being really nice with, what essentially ends up playing out like man coverage with outside corners. They do a great job holding up downfield, and then you're going to see those underneath, defenders kind of match with their releases. Only one of the flat, so then the other guys just drop spot or drop to their spots, right? But James Pierce, I think, is the main architecture of this play, of this sack, of this pressure. Onyemata cleans it up, which obviously is important, right? As much as this pressure by James Pierce is awesome, if they would have got outside of it, it wouldn't have really mattered, right? If Baker would have scrambled, it wouldn't have really mattered. But we cleaned him up. So right here, we got man coverage. Typically speaking, when you rush 5, you can either just lock your man matchups here. I understand why they're doing this because you're going to want your corners on their 2 wide receivers. And then essentially, if this tight end were to release to the flat, you'd probably see Diablo go with them. If the running back comes over here, which he does, you'll see him release with him, and then you essentially have this one kind of underneath defender. So that's typically kind of how some of these coverages work, right? If your guy stays into pass pro, you either pass rush if he stays in for pass pro, or you drop to your spot and you play your area. But right here, I'm pretty sure these are just locked because they, why not, right? They have 2 wide receivers who are real vertical threats. So let's just keep our corners on them and get that over the top safety help. So that's kind of the coverage wise. What really matters to me, though, I didn't mean to do that. Anyways, what really matters to me, though, is James Pierce as the edge rusher. You're going to see they're going to try to block him with a tight end. He's going to beat him. Really, he does a really nice job with kind of this dip move with that fully extended right arm. And that's going to cause the tackle to come off his help with Onyemata and kind of leave his guard on an island, and that ends up, resulting in Onyemata getting the sack. So again, right here, you're going to see, let's rewind this a little bit. So they're going to bring this tight end over on the motion. James Pierce engaging with him. Look at that one arm. I want to highlight, this is actually so nice. He has his hand on the arm engaging him, and he's going to sling that off of him right here. And he does that little dip. Right here, the tackle kind of notices this, right? He's kind of scanning. He's like, okay, who do I help? Who do I help? Oh, shit, my tight end's about to be beat. I need to come off here. If he does not do this, James Pierce 100% gets this sack. He does, though, and that opens this lane for Baker to try to scramble. And now, mind you, that also means Onyemata is now one-on-one, and he's winning, and that means he's going to be able to get the sack. Now, this is all based off James Pierce, right? Cool, awesome sack by Onyemata. Again, if Baker gets loose and scrambles for 20 yards, none of us even care because it's like, great. Nice pressure. You let the quarterback scramble. But looking at the tape, right, we just saw James Pierce eat a tight end up, trying to block him, draw the tackle, open up the lane, and then Onyemata is able to clean it up for a sack. So again, that's all driven by James Pierce. He's continuing an awesome rookie year rushing the passer, and this is just one rep of many. But it's really, really nice. All right, next thing we're going to see Baker Mayfield turn down the throw, which is good because Jesse Bates was going to take it to the house, kind of playing that poach tricks technique, where essentially the backside safety is looking to jump any crossing routes, typically, vertical. But right here, he decides to full send it and almost gets an interception for it. Baker, turns it down because he sees him. But otherwise, it's a little bit of, one of those plays where it's Jesse Bates, just playing very instinctual, doing what he wants. And he would have had one for sure if Baker threw it. But Baker turns it down, looks to scramble. We probably get away with a bit of a hold by D. Alford. Hey, man, make them call it. If they don't call it, it's not pass interference. That's just how the rules work. So, again, they're going to be motioning here. And what really, the only time, I won't say only time, typically speaking, when you see this safety playing tricks or poach, what it means is there's 3 wide receivers on one side. And the goal really is to avoid having runaways against man coverage with no help, which is sort of what happens here actually with D. Alford on this corner. Coverage-wise, to me, this looks just like total man, right? Everybody's kind of watching the receiver, which is more of a man indicator than it is zone. Usually in zone, they're trying to sort it out. But to me, this certainly looks like man coverage with that one deep safety. But again, he's looking to hunt up any crosser routes. So right here, The reason I say he kind of, he gets away with it, right? He's going to jump this. If Baker lets this thing go, it is to the house, right? But I think technique-wise, if Jesse Bates played this more traditionally, which again, if he played this traditionally, Baker's throwing this ball and it's probably, a decent gain for them. Since he jumps it, obviously he turns it down. But this is kind of the reason you have this backside safety playing the poach, because as you're going to see, DeAlford, angle-wise, he's just not able to really catch up with this player. And as he comes across, if Bates kind of sunk on this and took away this window, it'd be a lot harder for Baker to get this throw off. And obviously he doesn't, but if Baker was looking right at him, he'd be wide open. So that's why, again, the safety have to play instinctual, right? You're reading the quarterback. Right here, Jesse Bates, does his job, right? He reads the eyes. He makes the right play. He's in position to pick this off. But because of that, it means DeAlford is in pursuit. Luckily we have a little bit of pressure up front, so this isn't an easy throw. Right here, this has to be PI, but again, they don't call it. So, we got away with it there. But again, Jesse Bates doing what he does, right? Making instinctual plays, trying to jump routes, get big interceptions. Hasn't really done it as much this year in terms of, going away with the interceptions, but you can just see this is what he's all about right here. He's reading the helmet stripe. He wants to throw it. Baker turns it down. If Baker reset and threw it to DeAlford in the window that he vacated, it would be a nice throw, but instead he doesn't, and that means we're able to, kind of force the incompletion and live another down. So again, nice play from Jesse Bates, forcing the turn down, and yeah, it was good. Right next to your Falcons are going to get spread out by the Bucs, play some man coverage. Coverage holds up everywhere. You're going to see the underneath kind of defenders, Caden Ellis and Diablo, kind of just do what they're supposed to do, right? Navigate the releases from the running back, whichever side he goes to, kind of match up with him, and then just stay in your underneath zone areas. But mainly the highlight here is Brandon Dorlus creating a ton of pressure, and then Ruco Roro working across the across the line of scrimmage, getting a hand up, deflecting this ball, almost causing an interception. So again, pre-snap, anytime you see corners pressed up like this, again, you're just seeing man coverage. He's lined up over this receiving type, so he'll be the vertical responsibility of him. And then the running back, typically speaking, how it'll work, whichever way the running back releases, the linebacker will kind of pick him up. It's possible they're locking this with Diablo since he's, a little bit better in coverage than Caden Ellis is, but I would assume, based off Caden Ellis Diablo seems very willing to pass him off inside, that's how they're running it. And then again, coverage down the field, just really tight, cover one man, nowhere to go with the ball. Brandon Dorlus gets the pressure, Baker starts to scramble. This is always a tough situation, right? Like you don't have the natural leverage where if this ball's good, maybe it's completed. He's in position to maybe get a hand in there and swipe it. But again, Rook gets his hand up there, gets the pressure. Let's highlight Brandon Dorlus here. Just throws his hands off. Look at that initial contact, man. That's awesome. Look at the violence. Gets him on his back feet. Pushes him all the way back into the quarterback, gets around, hand in his face. Baker has to scramble. Ruco Roro taking away the scramble lane for Baker, gets that hand up, right? He's a tall, athletic guy. And again, Baker's lucky that's not intercepted. It really probably should have been, but poor Diablo with his club here. We'll forgive him for that one. It's hard with the club. I get it, man. But again, great play by Brandon Dorlus. And again, just the coverage helping out our pass rush, right? Like the coverage consistently helped out the pass rush against the Bucs. Obviously, the Bucs put points up on us. I'm not highlighting all the bad plays. I get I'm just showing some of the plays, right? But I think overall, when I watched the tape, I came away, pretty satisfied with how the secondary and the interior D-line and defensive line in general played. They had some big plays, right? Anytime you have, Kobe Bryant out there, young player against Mike Evans, it's going to happen, right? But I think on a down-to-down basis, we played pretty well, despite the points scored. I think it wasn't a bad performance at all, especially considering the turnovers we had offensively. All right, next, we're locked to break into. Jalen Walker with the ghost move gets the initial pressure. Then Brandon Dorlus and James Pearson kind of the stunt are able to pick up the sack. Coverage-wise, to me, this looks to be either, it's definitely, a combo coverage, right? We clearly have quarters on one side, and whether we're calling, two-man or we're calling traditional cover six, I can't really tell you. They kind of look similar. That's why it's kind of hard to diagnose. But I can talk about two-man versus kind of traditional cover two. So, again, anytime we're talking about cover six or quarter, half coverage, you basically want to split the field in half. Pre-snap, you can see this kind of just looks like quarters. On this side, we actually are kind of playing this quarters coverage with these two, deep players. On this side, we're going to have one deep safety, and you're going to see AJ get some depth and kind of sit here in the flat, and this would be a traditional kind of cover two look. It can also be, what people call two-man, which essentially is like a toolkit in the quarters wheelhouse, where essentially if they're trying to get you with stuff like this, where they send a vertical and your corner follows with them, and then they can call an easy screen pass and it's linebacker on running back or whatever. Nah, cut 2-man, the whole purpose is, all right, we're going to let this guy release to the safety, and then the outside corner is driving down to basically blow up any screen passes. So again, it could just be traditional cover 6. To me, I would think it's probably 2-man, but no way to know for sure. Either way, it works out for us. It's exactly what we want to do, right? So if this is 2-man, we're on top of the screen pass. If it's cover 2, it doesn't really matter, because in cover 2 anyways, this player wants to get a little bit of depth and kind of be ready to drive down. Quarter side's all taken care of. Baker maybe could hit this crosser, but it doesn't really matter because we get pressure up front. So let's talk about the pressure up front now that we've kind of talked about the coverage on the back end. Jalen Walker, really creates this. I think it was probably going to be a pretty decent pass rush rep anyways for everybody. So right here, gets that hand out and lowers the shoulder. Tackle's not able to get a good grab on him. And Jalen Walker has a pretty good balance here. He forces the step up, because if Baker doesn't pay attention right here, he's going to get sacked. And then Brandon Dorlus and James Pierce, as tackling guard, really the best way to pass these off is you have to be basically at the same level. So then as he comes across, you can basically see it. That doesn't happen here. You're going to see the tackle gets a little bit more depth. And, Brandon Dorlus gets pushed back on the guard. So right here, they're not in position to pass this off. They try. James Pierce is here to get the sack, and it's a great play up front by all the young guys. Again, it's really nice to see Brandon Dorlus, Jalen Walker, and James Pierce all come together to make a play defensively. That just gives you a lot of hope for the future, that these guys will stick around and be great players for the defense. All right, next thing we get kind of another, red, quads look, so quarters-ish kind of coverage in the red zone that plays out a little bit differently just because there's no deep parts of the field, at least that's what it looks like to me. And it doesn't really matter because up front we get a lot of pressure, and that's really what I want to focus on right here. You're going to see a little bit different, right? We haven't talked about the young guys all day, and hey, 3 of the young guys are out here. You're actually going to see Onyemata kind of blow this up along with the stunt with Brandon Dorlus. So again, Onyemata coming over here, working all the way across the face, and we're going to bring Brandon Dorlus right over here. Onyemata still kind of wins, which is the funny part, because he gets the pick and he gets in the backfield and creates the pressure. And Brandon Dorlus, again, gets this shove. Baker kind of stumbles here, so I'm not going to give Dorlus a ton of credit. But hopefully, even if he hadn't stumbled, you were going to see, maybe Jalen Walker clean him up or whatnot. So again, old man Onyemata. We've been talking about all the young guys all day. But Onyemata sets up Brandon Dorlus here for the sack. Again, Baker kind of slips a little bit. But again, Onyemata, not only does he set up the stunt, he wins on the stunt. So it's like you get the best of both worlds, right? You get the free rusher in Brandon Dorlus, and you get actual pressure from Onyemata. Really nice play from them. Again, coverage-wise, it was kind of that back in, red quads. There was one player who was coming open as I was looking at it. We'll go ahead and play that end. I never do my usual where I usually let it play all the way through, but whatever. So again, right here, they kind of have this whipper return route, and this was definitely going to be there late. But again, when you have pressure, it makes it hard for the quarterback to get there. And so again, they had him release over here, and he comes to that whipper return, and he gets right into the vacated space. Would have been there. Baker not able to get there because guess what? He gets sacked. So again, great play by the defense. Just nice to see Onyemata kind of set up the release for the sack. Next one here, Falcons are sitting in the house. We get a little bit lucky because, we have this late leak by the tight end after he's blocking initially, and Kobe Bryant has a bit of a breakdown and doesn't stay quite on top of him because he looks to help with this kind of way he thinks is going to be a crosser into his zone. So obviously, if we don't get the pressure, Baker's going to be able to clean that up. But hey, when you're sending 6, this is the world you're living in, right? So just get home. And really, Diablo, Laquale London, they're all over this. They just absolutely explode the Bucs offensive line. So we'll talk about design-wise. Again, typically when you're hot, and I also want to say this is pretty good disguised coverage, right? So pre-snap, I wouldn't think they're sending freaking everybody. Now, mind you, I would imagine Diablo here is firing off based on the linebacker. I'm sorry, not the linebacker, but the running back. So when this running back stays in the pass pro, that means Diablo has the go signal, right? Outside of that, though, they're still sending 5 even without him, but then they send the 6. And this late leak by the tight end, I think, was going to be there. But it's so late that you can't really expect Baker to get there. Because, again, they're probably not expecting to be hot off this play action. Because, again, at the top of his drop, good luck, man. I guess you could say he could absolutely rip this thing right here. Because, unfortunately, since we're playing, we're sending so much pressure, we're in man coverage across the board with this one deep safety. And that just means we have no underneath help. And that's actually what you'll see with Kobe Bryant. As much as he has this coverage bust right here, it's kind of unfortunate timing because you can see he's watching the tight end. He glances because he knows, okay, this is play action. If this player comes over here, I need to get into this window to take it away. Unfortunately, the tight end, isn't staying in the block and he releases it. And as, Kobe looks back, he sees it and he's like, oh shit, I got to get going. So more unfortunate than anything that like the exact moment he glances is when that happens. But obviously we still get home. Look at the pass rush one more time. Again, I just think you see Leonard Floyd, London, and you see, I think it's London, or is that Street? I can't remember who 94 is. My apologies, it's 94. I'll look you up here in a second. I don't have time to do it while I'm doing the video, though. But yeah, nice play, obviously, from the defense. Yeah, another good rep. All right, actually, we're getting a really nice play by Baker Mayfield. Right here we're getting this pre-snap indicator with the motion that we're in man coverage. They take advantage of that kind of with this pick route. Unfortunately, it doesn't go quite as smooth as they would have hoped because their tight end type here kind of trips up. But Baker gets outside late, able to whip this thing down the field. Brandon Dorlitz with a nasty swim move, probably one of his nicest moves he has in his repertoire right now. He's kind of been hitting those, I wouldn't say weekly, but damn near weekly, and he's been getting some nice pressure with it. So again, just develop it as a young player. So we'll talk about it again. Man coverage indicator, right? If you're following someone across the formation, it's probably man coverage. Quarterback knows it. Offensively speaking, right here, they are trying to get this pick route wide open. Since the tight end kind of gets tripped up on the feet here, the timing's not smooth. It actually gives Bates time to get over there. But in a normal circumstance, this would be wide open. Baker would be slamming that thing to him. But since they kind of mess up the execution, it's not there. Late in the down, though, they come open. This is just how it works when you scramble. It's hard to cover someone for, 6 seconds downfield. Offense has every advantage. But Brandon Dorlitz, let's watch this swim move in slow motion. All over him, wide open. Get Leonard Floyd here. Loses the edge a little bit, which is unfortunate. And that's really why Baker's able to get out as easily as he is. Makes a nice move, makes a nice throw. Baker's going to get you sometimes, and I think overall, though, that's a really nice rep from Brandon Dorlitz. That guy, D. Alford, with the hops, coming with a massive interception. You're really going to see kind of the similar technique between him and Caden Ellis here, and I think it works out really nice, and it's a good example of kind of, getting that underneath window and really stressing the windows for the quarterback. And it's worth noting that they've been targeting Kobe Bryant all night. With this matchup, obviously it makes sense, right? Mike Evans versus a rookie undrafted corner. But right here, you're going to see Caden Ellis and D. Alford kind of do the same thing, where they have these inside verticals, and we don't want them covering them. So what they're going to do is they're going to kind of push it off and deliver it to the safeties, and that allows D. Alford over here to float, and he's getting this backside throwing window to Kobe Bryant right here. Reading the eyes of the quarterback, kind of knows, right? They've been hunting up these kind of comeback routes all day. So D. Alford just makes one hell of a throw, or I'm sorry, one hell of a play. I mean, look how vertical he gets there, man. That's absolutely nasty. Shout out D. Alford, man. Again, people who've been following this channel for a long time know we are D. Alford fans here. We are believers. We are D. Alford truthers, if you will. And he certainly showed up for us tonight. Or not this night, but Thursday night. So love to see it. Love seeing D. Alford ball out. Again, if you follow the channel, ball. We were ready for this. All right, last one here. We're going to see Jalen Walker just stress the throwing window for Baker off this kind of bootleg action where they're trying to get the levels concept. We blow it up pretty well. It's also not well executed by them, obviously. I didn't use this opportunity to just talk about the game. Again, super encouraging play from the young guys defensively. I think, even Rook has certainly been playing better lately. James Pearson and Jalen Walker, obviously the headliners. Brandon Dorlitz is certainly getting his share of credit. I personally love seeing D. Alford ball out. Again, I always have a soft spot for guys I feel like get overhated by the fan base at large. There were people who were upset D. Alford was even making the roster, and he's very easily been our best nickel defender this year. So, happy to see him play well. Again, these undrafted guys are always cool stories. He certainly loves the Falcons. I know he's even gone on, I think, a podcast or two before in the past, so shout out him. Good Falcon. Good game for the Falcons overall. Doesn't do a ton to move the needle for me. If I'm honest, I think defensively they played fairly well. Offensively, obviously they played well. But in the end, it was an extremely messy game. It's hard to watch that game and come away super impressed with the Falcons. Rather, I come away thinking, man, we did everything in our power to lose that game, but somehow we won. And I'm sure Bucs fans feel the same way. So that's the NFL sometimes, right? Things are going to be nasty. Some you're not going to always have perfect game plans, perfect games. But as far as Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot go, still got to get rid of them. Barring some crazy down the stretch run where they beat the Rams, Cardinals, and Saints. I mean, even then, I'd probably still get rid of them myself, but at least you can kind of squint and come up with a reason to keep them. But for me personally, I think, it's just time to close this era of Falcons football, look towards the future. You have some good young pieces on the defense. Offensively, you got Drake and Bijan and Chris Losner, I guess. And I actually think Matthew Bergeron has been playing a lot better lately, to the point I think you factor him into your future offensive line plans in a way you don't necessarily factor in Caleb McGarry or Jake Matthews, mostly due to injury and age for those two. Jake Matthews is still playing well. He's just getting old. Love the guy. He's getting old. So, yeah, that's all I got. Nice to, watch a win. I know I haven't been quite as, on top of the Falcons film lately, mostly because we suck and it's not fun to watch. But yeah, I still had a good time watching the film, watching the young guys play, so I hope everybody enjoyed.